Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Equity Markets Outlook brought to you by ICE Commentary. You're speaking with McDonald. First thing before I get into the video is just to remind you all that there will be some limited trading hours coming up with the Easter break. That also means that we'll be taking a 1 week break from ICE Commentary, so Easter Monday there will be no commentary provided and we'll be back again the following week. Looking straight at the charts now, and let's start with the daily chart. Now, I've been virtually unwaveringly on my bullish side for quite some time now, but there's just a few little concerns creeping into the market for me. So, to clarify up front, I remain bullish, however, there is a few buts attached to it this time. There's a few things coming in that are showing maybe we're making a bit of a top across some of these index markets. When I say top, by the way, I should correct that to say looks like we could be due a little bit more of a pullback at these levels as compared to necessarily a top as in a change of trend. I definitely do not think that is happening. I think that we could get a slightly bigger pullback with markets like the Nasdaq, for example, being very overdue a pullback. Now let me show you why. First things first, that this still remains an uptrend, so it's crazy to start calling things a change of trend before it happens. That's what, like I say, I remain bullish. However, there's just a but attached to it. There's a few things that are showing that price could turn around here, very early stages. What are those things? Well, we've got an uptrend, we're in the buy zone, we've got a bullish candle, it looks bullish, it looks like it should go on. So everything there looks strong. What are the things that don't look so good? Well, one is the absolute rejection of this level up here. We've come up and we've rejected this upper region and actually proven that there is resistance here. So it's a bit of a zone between these two upper lines, but we've really proven there is resistance. Not only that, but we're diverging on the indicators. So price has been making higher highs through here. Notice how the RSI and the MACD are making lower highs. That is bearish divergence and showing their early signs for pullback. So rather than having everything in agreement, like for example where we head back through here, where everything, indicators making higher highs, price making higher highs, no resistance in the way, things were looking bullish back in this previous part of the trend, as they were early here, and even as they were as we approached resistance when we hadn't tested it again recently. Now we've tested it again recently, it has proven that it is resistance with the divergence. It's starting to look just slightly bearish. However, the trend remains intact and the candles are bullish, so for now it does look bullish. We just have to have this but over. It may not get through here, and if it fails there again, it won't be looking too pretty. Come over and look at the weekly chart. We're going to see a similar thing. We've come up, here's our level, right, 850. Come up and we've really rejected it now. Proven 850 is resistance. And what's happened as well, this is a very bearish candle. If we break down through last week's candle, it just looks like a bigger pullback is on the cards. And like I said, not any kind of a top, but a bigger pullback. Maybe just down towards 800, maybe a little bit further. But it is any break below there, and let's just get precise on the levels. Last week's low was only 819. It's not far from where we are now, and a breakdown through 819 is going to be looking like a bigger pullback. I'd say probably more like to around about 790-ish, that kind of region, just projecting out simply the size of last week's candle and projecting a similar size downward. It's going to get us to around about 790. Remember though, this is only if price breaks last week's low before breaking the high. So if we break up through the high, everything I say here that's slightly bearish will be invalidated. We'll be looking like pushing on up and continuing as expected. However, if we break last week's low first, down through 819, then we'll be looking like coming lower to at least 800, probably more like 790. I don't think anything bigger than a pullback beyond this previous low here. So the actual low here, 779, I don't think we'll break that, because then we'd be starting to look like a potential change of the weekly uptrend. I'm not expecting that to happen, but a slightly bigger pullback than was previously expected could be on the cards here. Coming looking at it on the monthly, the reason I remain longer term bullish, this is still undoubtedly strong, still very likely to break up through 850. And it's just a case of when. However, a little bit of a pullback is not unexpected. Even just a little pullback, like we're talking, even back to 750 wouldn't be a big deal. But as you can see here on the monthly chart, a pullback into 800 or so would be absolutely insignificant as far as the monthly chart goes, and it would still be bullish in the longer term. Let's just quickly come and have a look at a couple of the cash markets, because the Dow also has a little bit of a change, or potential change of direction coming in here, where we've made a lower high. See all through here, right? We're nicely uptrending, we're making higher highs. We've now made this lower high, but at the same time we've made a higher low. So there's a little bit of indecision here. It doesn't really mean anything major other than just a little bit of indecision. We're going from quite a clear uptrend to a little bit indecisive. Coming looking at it on the monthly, it still remains strong, and it's actually broken up through those highs. I think we'll be coming up and we'll be testing 14,000 in the coming months. Looking at it even on the weekly chart, it still looks bullish. So everything else looks bullish there, but a bit of a decision on the daily. Just potentially those very early signs of a change of direction. Looking at the S&P, however, that's actually different to the Dow, unusually. But actually, when we see this on the chart, it's actually continued to make higher highs and higher lows. We've got a bullish candle. It looks strong. It looks like pushing up, but is a bit more overextended in the Dow, and actually due that pullback where we looked at it on the Russell, just saying it's due that pullback a little bit further. Well, the S&P is as well. Just a bit of a pullback into say 1350 would be a healthy pullback and just give us more strength to push on with on the way back up. And lastly, coming looking at the Nasdaq, this remains one of the big reasons why markets are overextended and just need that pullback sometime. This has just been up and up and up and up and up. This hasn't really stopped for a breath, and it has to take a breath at some time, and that really means pull back into around about 2600, maybe even 2500, which is going to feel like a really big pullback when that actually happens. It's not a case of if, it's a case of when. The Nasdaq will pull back. It might not be this week or next week or the week after. It might not be for a few more months, but it will pull back. It has to pull back, and it has to pull back into these averages. And when it does, it's likely to have an impact on the Dow and the S&P as well, probably even a slightly bigger impact on the Russell, and have that bit of a pullback with it. So I just have to keep a close eye on this, and it's starting to look like that point is getting closer and closer, especially as we've got this quite a bearish looking weekly candle. And like the Russell, if we broke down through last week's low, we'll be starting to look like a bit more of a pullback was on the cards. So coming right back and summing up my thoughts, I want to be very careful to be clear here. I remain bullish. I think that markets will go up. I certainly remain bullish in the longer term and slightly bullish in the short term as well if this daily uptrend continues. However, if we come up and fail to break this high, so been really clear here, and we'll get right into the high of that candle, which is actually 850.6. So we're talking literally just above 850. If we break up through 850, then I will be expecting the market to continue higher. Everything I've said is slightly bearish will be invalidated. However, if we break down through last week's low, which on the daily chart happens to be this low here, we'll have then made a lower low, we'll have broken that weekly candle low, and we'll be looking like a bit of a bigger pullback, probably down to about 790-ish. Not expecting the market to break 780. So there's a couple of scenarios there, one to the upside and one to the downside, and I'll be watching closely this week and seeing which of those happens. And hopefully you will all enjoy an Easter break, so that means we won't speak to you for a couple of weeks, but have a fantastic break, and I'll be very much looking forward to coming back and updating you in 2 weeks time and looking at what has happened here on these markets. Have a wonderful break, everybody. Have a great few weeks trading, and I'll speak to you soon.